So, maps for Warzone have come and gone plenty of times at this point. Modern day Verdansk, Verdansk 84, Rebirth Island, Fortune's Keep, which I still think is criminal, it only got 5 months of life, and now Caldera as of recently. But anyways, maps have come and gone in the history of Warzone 1 and 2, and the current map of Al Mazrah, well, that may meet a similar fate. Believe it or not, Al Mazrah's life cycle is maybe looking to come to a close here in nearly 2 months or so. So what's next? That's the next big introduction that Modern Warfare 3 will bring with it, and what I want to discuss at a top level today with a bit of information that we have out there. As we go along, drop your thoughts down below. What do you think of the change up of map we may have seen teased to be coming? What do you think of the prospect of maybe a new map, or do you think we'll see it being added to a rotation? Whatever the case, drop your thoughts down below. But if you enjoyed the video, you find it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. And if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing to stay up to date with all things Modern Warfare 3, Warzone, X-Defiant, and more in a pretty packed fall season for games here. I'd love to have in the community. Finally, check out my friends over at Gamer Advantage for the best blue light glasses on the market, where code Espresso can get you 10% off your entire order, but more on that a little later. For now, let's jump into it. So let's take a look firstly at what we've seen for a little while now as a recap, because it's important to set up an integral change here to the overall content upcoming. But Modern Warfare 2 introduced Al Mazrah, but alongside that, tucked away in the back rooms of a campaign mission, the mission El Sin Nombre, you could end up finding an asset on a table of a cartel leader's muscle that was a map for the world of Las Almas. Now, first glance, there's not a whole ton here if you went out of your way to discover this little Easter egg that showed off the rest of the world to us. But if you dug a little deeper, you'd find that there was indeed significance to this map that was laid out in plain view in the campaign. Before the launch of Modern Warfare 2, all maps in the experience of Modern Warfare 2's multiplayer were categorized into 3 geographic denominations: Al Mazrah, Las Almas, and a dubbed rest of the world. The last one kind of being a bit of a cop-out, but the 2 main focal points were Al Mazrah and Las Almas right out of the gate. And we see that very clearly in the campaign, as we have Las Almas being a focal point in about half a dozen missions. But what made this discovery initially interesting was that because of that logic, you saw a handful of multiplayer maps match up directly with Al Mazrah's Warzone map, right? I mean, you had Fortress, Embassy, Tarak, Hydroelectric, Said, and Sarif Bay, all from Al Mazrah on day 1, either being perfect matches or slightly altered formations from the world of Warzone. Oppositely, though, you had the theme of maps being similar in aesthetic and possible nature and geographic location of El Asio, Mercado, Border Crossing, and the larger experiences of Guijarro and Santa Sena Border Crossing, seemingly fitting the bill for that dubbed Las Almas part of the Modern Warfare world, while maps like Hotel, Raceway, and Farm 18 filled out that void of the rest of the world. But while we had the assumption that those maps would make up Las Almas, we didn't have any real genuine confirmation that they were part of a world pre-built and cut out until this map was found. Because at that point, you could start putting the TAC maps from those individual 6v6 and ground war maps directly into the TAC map from the campaign, showing off the rest of Las Almas, and they fit perfectly. Since then, we've also seen the introduction of Punta Mar, though Shoot House is apparently set in Las Almas as well, but very well could be a standalone thing given the remake nature and just rebranding it to be thematic with Modern Warfare 2. But Punta Mar fits in the northwestern portion of that TAC map as well, adding even further fuel to this being a long-standing plan from the beginning. But here's where things get interesting. Las Almas has been that rumored next Warzone map for a long time, but a month back or so, myself and a handful of other creators and press were at Sledgehammer Studio pre-reveal of Modern Warfare 3 to end up seeing a bit of the game and getting a full debrief on what we could expect to see revealed and more, which eventually became the content that's been live on the channel for some time now. And we saw the reutilization of things like Verdansk playing on nostalgia for campaign purposes. We saw the remastered maps that have since been revealed via intel drop and more. But one thing that we saw the mention of a lot was Urzikstan, that other named location that people thought were going to be the next Warzone map in Verdansk with Modern Warfare 2019, because that was the main focal point outside of Verdansk and other areas alike. Urzikstan is a big focal point during that. But what we didn't see any mention of in that briefing was Las Almas. And what's stranger still is that we know that zombies will be played on the big map as DMZ has played this past year with Al Mazrah, or at least at the start. Of course, we got more as time went on, but we know that it's going to be played on that big Battle Royale map. But the TAC map for that was Urzikstan, but Urzikstan was the exact same TAC map as Las Almas and the world we've seen for almost a year now at this point since the campaign launched early. That TAC map that we just said had perfect matches with multiplayer maps right now from Las Almas and Modern Warfare 2's multiplayer, that's now Urzikstan apparently. So we might be seeing some geographic, thematic changes here, but in terms of build, it still seems exactly like what we should be able to expect. But that said, there's still tons about the map that we don't know. So while we may see some of these portions still potentially live on, or maybe they're entirely scrapped, remade as something else in terms of building, but the streets that line up may be the same, we also still have tons about the map that we don't know. But some of that might have actually been previewed already in actual gameplay footage. During some of these intel drops, we learned about some of these open combat segments for the campaign for Modern Warfare 3. Granted, campaign is not the indicator historically speaking, but we've talked about how this game's open combat segments look to essentially be Spec Ops but in campaign format. So Spec Ops, we have seen historically be the home to the big map content. That's the very basis of how Verdansk was introduced, how Warzone still acts, and most of the Spec Ops content within Al Mazrah and Modern Warfare 2. We also know that we'll be getting 4 new large-scale maps with Modern Warfare 3 at the launch that are not remasters like the 6v6 base offering for multiplayer. Those being the ground war and invasion maps of Resort, Military Base, and Industrial Belt, along with a war map called Launch Facility, though war is kind of a new player with all this. That one may still be up in the air. While we can't expect, maybe guarantee that the ground war maps will be portions of the big map cut for MP use, war has never been around yet in this post-Modern Warfare 2019 world with ground war as we know it. So while listed as a gargantuan war map, is that still pulled from the new Warzone map, or is it something built separately in its own large-scale format for war in particular? Those are some unanswered questions, but those things also may have been previewed already with those open combat segments of the campaign discussion. Now, we did see, as of somewhat recently, content creator and streamer Metaphor, who had previously had a track record of getting all of his previous Warzone leaks correct. He talked about the new Warzone map where he said it looks amazing, slide canceling is in the current build, which this was before the confirmation of all of that kind of stuff. He said there's no giant hill in the middle of the map, tons of buildings and POIs unlike Caldera, lots of areas that look memorable, and that he thinks it'll be a lot of people's favorite map. He stated that downtown is very Verdansk-like, with the biggest buildings being Overwatch from Modern Warfare 3's DLC at the top, very reminiscent of Blackout's construction site. Countdown from COD 4 is also in the map. He said the game looks exactly like Modern Warfare 2 but improved, hoping that they make animations smooth and faster. Again, those kind of things have since been confirmed. He also stated there were less open fields and more building-based battles, with the looks of tons of opportunity for regaining, and that he wouldn't be surprised if they try pushing the player limit past 150 again. He said this map has a ton of Verdansk inspiration and little to no inspiration from Al Mazrah and Caldera. Now again, all this kind of stuff was before the reveal of Modern Warfare 3, so some of that stuff actually has come out to be true. Some of it does match up with what we've seen so far from that reveal, like the slide canceling returning. We know that's going to be a thing. The game looks like Modern Warfare 2, but improved. Again, we kind of know that's the thing. Tons of Verdansk inspiration would make sense because we see portions of Verdansk in the campaign and elsewhere with Modern Warfare 3 now. So it's quite a bit to digest, and while there's still a lot of unanswered questions, it seems like this sort of pivot away from Los Alamos, while strange, might not be half bad. Now, one thing that's important to note is that we'll have almost all of our questions here answered relatively soon. I mean, in less than 2 weeks' time at this point, because the reveal for Modern Warfare 3's multiplayer is also going to be showcasing, at least if it follows the same pattern as last year with COD Next, it'll be revealed at COD Next. Or so I'd imagine, since we're going to see this launch here with Season 1. It follows that same pattern as what we saw with Al Mazrah, so if we're going to have that now annual rotation of new maps coming in at Season 1, you're going to want to show it off somewhere to have some sort of marketing. And with the biggest playable showcase that Call of Duty has put on each year at this point, it makes sense that we'll have that here and we'll be able to see this first in person. Now, what about the future though? Because there's still a couple of unanswered questions here at this, and the biggest one to me is, what does this mean for DMZ as a whole? Because if we are making way for Los Alamos or Urzikstan and getting rid of Al Mazrah, as we've seen every single map so far in Warzone 1 leading up to Warzone 2 happen, that mainline Battle Royale map has been pushed to the side to make way for a new one. What does that mean for DMZ as a whole? Because even if DMZ isn't supported, which I know the talk about it here historically on the channel has resulted in a bit angrier of takes, but let's be realistic here. It's a possibility. I don't want it to be, but it is. But even if it is not supported, what does that mean for DMZ? Because Al Mazrah is a huge player in DMZ. If you get rid of DMZ, you get rid of basically the main location for DMZ. Now, of course, it's not the only infill location, obviously. You have Ashika, Building 21, Vondel, and Koshi Complex, albeit Koshi is connected with Al Mazrah. So if you remove one, you effectively remove that huge core. So what happens? Also, what happens to the seemingly planned fort resurgence and maybe more in rotation maps that we may see for Warzone as we know it right now? Do they make the cut? Do they go on further as the rotation for standalone resurgence maps at that point? Or do they get cut as well, since it's just essentially mini Royale on Al Mazrah? Or is there a chance that all of this is avoided and we see, even on a larger scale, the introduction of a map rotation? Maybe Al Mazrah doesn't go away. Maybe it's just instead a secondary map that's still supported and still has the ability to be played on, but it's in a map rotation similar to what we see with Resurgence and regular Battle Royale modes right now. I mean, we already have Vondel Battle Royale and Al Mazrah Battle Royale in a rotation for your big map, if you want to call it that, experiences. Vondel, though, in that rotation may have an asterisk because it's kind of like a mid-sized map. It's not as small as Ashika Island, as Rebirth, as Fortune's Keep, but it's also surely not as big as Al Mazrah, Caldera, and Verdansk versions we've seen in the past. So is that something that, do you add this to the rotation? Do you risk increasing an already massive file size for a game just to add more on top of that and not remove stuff? There's a lot of questions here that still need to be answered, but honestly, some pretty integral ones as well. However, that said, Las Almas, Urzikstan, whatever it comes to be known as, does look to be coming here in just a short period of time, and with a full-on reveal potentially happening again in just under about 2 weeks' time at this point. So that said, that is where I'm going to leave you with it. A lot to digest, a lot to consider, but I want to share with you guys the next big introduction beyond just the launch of what Modern Warfare 3 has to offer and the larger implications it has for the free-to-play Call of Duty experience as a whole. So that said, that's where we're going to wrap it up. Before we do, though, make sure you check out my friends over at Gamer Advantage, what I still swear by is the best blue light glasses company on the market. They just recently launched their Diablo frames, so if you're like me, you like those aviator-style frames, these are absolutely the ones for you. Now, I cannot do enough justice for all the science, the clinical studies, and all the technical details. That stuff can be found linked down below in the description, but what I can say is that in my 2 years of being partners with these guys, they have absolutely been the best pairs of glasses I've had. Most lightweight, comfortable, and durable frames out there, and of course, we've talked about it before. If you guys have a prescription, you can work with your insurance to get your prescriptions put into those lenses and also have insurance help to cover at least part of the cost, maybe even the full cost of your entire order. So if you guys want to learn more, just find out the details and everything like that. Again, they go way more in depth than I ever could. Link down there in the description below, but if you guys want to pick something up for yourself, use code Espresso to get 10% off your entire order. But for now, that is what we're going to call it. So again, drop your thoughts down below. What do you guys think of the next chapter for Warzone and what Modern Warfare 3 brings along? Looking forward to it, not so much. Whatever the case, feel free to let me know. If you enjoyed the video, you found it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. And if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing to stay updated with all things Modern Warfare 3, X-Defiant, Warzone, and so much more. Again, a very busy fall upcoming, so I'd love to have you in the community. But for now, thanks so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you later. Take care and peace.